My position as mayor of Ashland, my first and primary duty is to oversee the police department, the scheduling, discipline, things like that. If someone has issues with the police department, complaints, they come to me. Occasionally somebody comes to me with something good about the police department, which is a nice thing. The mayor of Ashland, like the mayor of a lot of boroughs, we don't have a vote on borough council. The only time we get to vote is in the event of a tie. And if council is tied on an issue, then I step in and I can opt to either break the tie, or I can opt not to and force council to reconvene within 10 days to break the tie, things like that. The mayor of a small borough like ours doesn't have a lot of power. It's a lot of ceremonial things. Lead the Little League Parade, which I'm doing this afternoon, lighting the Christmas tree, Mother's Day ceremony, things like that. There's not a lot of defined duties for the mayor other than tie breaking and overseeing the police department.
Do you enjoy your position?
Actually, I do. It's been a lot of fun. I was a little hesitant when I was first elected mayor, but I've got to work with a lot of different community groups. It's a lot of fun. It's given me exposure in areas to different things that I don't think I would have gotten if I hadn't been elected mayor. Working with the community I find very rewarding. So yeah, absolutely I enjoy it. This is my second term.
Why did you want your position?
Honestly, I did it on a whim. I was, we're kicking it around. Friends of ours were sitting around the Elks one night and we were talking about the elections coming up, and the mayor of Ashland before me was Rosemary Noon. She took over after her husband Norby had passed away, and Mayor Noon had done an excellent job, and she decided that she was done with it. She was going to retire, and kind of kiddingly I said, you know what, I think I'm going to run for mayor, and one thing led to another, and here I am.
Who do your decisions affect?
Pretty much the whole town. We've had, I've been mayor for 6 years, and I've had 2 votes to make, and one was declared illegal because it is complicated with the amount of council members that were there, and it was that one vote was for actually the selection of the president of council, and me as a Republican with a Democrat majority on council, I pretty much dictated to the Democrat Party who their president was going to be. So it affected a lot of things because your council president sets the agenda, your council president runs the meeting, a lot of things like that. So it had an effect on really what I would consider my competitors, and things that I do, things that I set. One thing I have to do is, and I said this when I ran for election, the mayor, for whatever reason, decides when Halloween is, and I'm a firm believer in Halloween is Halloween. So I've held to that, with the exception of one year when Mount Carmel and North Schuylkill played, and it was on Halloween, and I thought, well, I'm not going to make kids pick between going to the football game or trick-or-treating. So simple little things like that have a town-wide effect.
What is your most recent project?
Most recent, it hasn't been announced yet, but it's in the plans. Next year is the 75th anniversary of the Mother's Memorial in Ashland, and we're getting a committee together to commemorate that. What I'm looking to do, I want to work with certainly the community leaders in town, but I also want to work with the youth in the town. So we're going to appoint a Mother's Memorial Committee for the 75th anniversary, and we're going on that.
What is your favorite project?
Favorite thing, 5 years ago we looked at the Mother's Memorial, and the history behind the Mother's Memorial is really, really interesting. How it was funded in the Depression. It's part of the WPA project under President Roosevelt. We looked at that and said, you know, we have a unique memorial in town. Nothing was done with it, and we started 5 years ago. We call it an Elementary Mother's Day program. And at 7 o'clock every Mother's Day, we have a program. The children write essays, write little one-liners about their mother, and it's a nice little program that we've had. This will be our 6th one coming up, and it's something I look forward to and something I really enjoy.
If you could change one thing, what would it be?
I think I'd like to see a little less partisan politics in town. I'd like to see council members, and not only council members, but party leaders, put aside, we're Democrats, we're Republicans, and work for what's best for the community. Put the party labels behind them and work for the best interest of the town.
Do you work with students, and in what ways?
Yeah, I work with students in a variety of ways. As I mentioned, the Mother's Day program, we work with that. I get high school kids to help me with the setup for that, with taking down. I'm also involved, I mentioned the Elks earlier. We have a program in the Elks, which you're aware of, called the Antlers, which is the junior Elks. And it's for children between ages 11 and 21. Hopefully it's a segue for them to join the Elks, but we do a lot of community projects. One of the things we do is we have a car wash, and we work for the benefit of Mother's Memorial. We raise funds for the preservation and upkeep of that. So I work closely with the community on that. Different organizations ask me to get involved. They've been involved with the football program, the Little League programs, things like that. The youth, in my opinion, is one of our most valuable assets. If we can get the youth involved and get them to have a sense of community when they're young, it's something they'll foster and carry with them as they get older, and like instill a little town pride in them.
Why do you stay involved?
You're either part of the problem or part of the solution. And a lot of people will sit back and complain, and this is wrong with the town, that's wrong with the town. And my feeling is, if you find so many things wrong or you have so many complaints, get involved. There's people that complain and there's people that do, and I'd rather be somebody that gets involved and does something. I like to think I'm working for the betterment of Ashland.
How do you listen to others' concerns?
Hopefully open-minded. We talked earlier about the powers of the mayor. I'll give you an example. A woman called me Wednesday night, and she was very distraught because her water was being cut off. She hadn't paid her water bill, and she was looking for help. And I could listen to her, I could sympathize with her, I could empathize, but as far as actually doing something, I couldn't. I listened to her concern. I tried to steer her in the right direction. I hooked her up with the president of council. Went to New York the next day, so I don't know how it played out. But you have to be sympathetic. It's not something that, kind of hard to say. You just can't be official. You have to be human when you're dealing with people.
Who do you have to answer to?
First off is my wife. When the phone rings, she says, "Will you call those people back? I'm sick of listening to them call." But generally, the public. It's you walk through town. It's hard to go through if there's an issue facing the town. Really, it's hard to get away from it. One thing that's on the table in Ashland is they're considering selling our water system, which I'm opposed to, and a lot of people are. And I'll go into a place like Boyer's, or I'll go into Ashland Pizza, and people will say to me, "Hey, what's going on with the water thing?" And it's hard to go really anywhere. This afternoon will be at Little League, and I'm sure I'll get cornered on that again up there.
How do you reach your compromises on issues?
It's really hard to give a general answer for that because each situation is different. We had issues with the police department where council wanted to go one way, I was leaning another way, and that was kind of a hardball. It wasn't a compromise, it was an outright I won, because what they were trying to do was similar to something that had happened in Shenandoah 8 years before. So I contacted the Prothonotari's office, and I got the ruling by the judge in the county, which proved my point. That was one issue that was pretty contentious with us. As far as other issues, it's kind of a tit for tat. All right, I'll do that for you guys, but here's what I want for you. You want me to schedule a certain way, but hey, we need equipment, so let's do that. Every situation is unique. There's no pat answer for that question.
Does your political party affect the things you do?
To a degree, but I really think in Schuylkill County, anybody that's a Republican has Democrat leanings. Anybody that's a Democrat has some Republican leanings. So I think, I don't think you have extreme right wing and extreme left wing in this county. You have moderate, middle of the road people. As a Republican, I'm expected to be fiscally conservative, as opposed to a tax and spend. But they're the labels that seem to fit the national politics, or more so on a state level than on the local. I think when it comes right down to it, we don't think Democrat, we don't think Republican. We think, how's this going to affect my neighbor? How's this going to affect in my case, my mother, who's elderly, getting back to the water issue, if they do sell that, because Ashland controls it, if they sell it to a big company, the concern is going to go out, and I'm really concerned that water rates could triple. And I try to look at things as how's it going to affect the average person in town.
Would you be open to discussing issues with the youth?
Absolutely, that's why I'm here today. As I said earlier with the Mother's Memorial, I think getting the youth involved is a really good thing. There's a guy in Ashland that you didn't know, Harry Strauss. He loved what we did with the Mother's Memorial. He said, you know, that's something that sat dormant for so long. He said, and you get the youth to feel part of that, to feel proud of it. That's something that's going to carry on. And I think what I'd really love to see happen in the area is our youth go off to college, get educated, and come back to the area and work to improve, as opposed to, there's nothing there for me, I'm going to leave the area. I'd like to see them say, well, there might not be a job there for me, but there's opportunity. I can create something for myself. I can create something for my peers and stay in this area.